So let's talk about how much uranium is available as a power supply. Remember, we've previously defined the concept of a resource. That's the total amount of some uh, resource that's potentially retrievable. So in this case, it would be the total amount of uranium that is hypothetically uh, retrievable by humans. And the reserves are the kind that we know about and can get to and are economically viable to use. So that's just our definitions, and this table just summarizes some of the amounts of uranium that are available in different parts of the United States. Not responsible for memorizing any of this stuff. Uh, like fossil fuels, uranium is a limited resource. It's a finite resource. We're not making more of it, just like we're not making more coal. The planet isn't making more coal, it's not making more uranium. So there's a finite resource available. Um, in terms of using uranium as a fuel, natural uranium ore is an isotope called uranium-238. In 1,000 kilograms of uranium-238, typically about 7.2 kilograms of that, or 0.72% of it, would be in the form of uranium-235. And uranium-235 is the isotope of uranium that we use in the reactor to go through this chain reaction. We add a neutron, it becomes uranium-236, 236 splits and produces additional neutrons, which then go on and hit other uranium-235 nuclei, which split, producing more neutrons, and so on. To make the chain reaction actually viable in a nuclear reactor and produce enough useful energy in the process, 0.72% doesn't cut it. So the raw uranium ore is enriched, and that means that it's processed to increase the concentration of uranium-235 and throw away some of the uranium-238 in the process. So there's an enrichment process that happens before what is shown on this slide, and these atoms are all mixed up. But essentially you can think of it as sort of skimming some of the uranium-238 off the top and leaving a higher concentration of the valuable uranium-235. And when it gets to a concentration of over 3%, then it is assembled into fuel rods and sent off to nuclear power plants. So if I have 1,000 kilograms of that enriched ore, that's going to be 33 kilograms, not 7.2 kilograms, but 33 kilograms of uranium-235. Put it in the power plant, and that uranium-235 then decays, and it goes through those nuclear reactions that we talked about. And at a certain point, when about 25 of those 33 kilograms have been have split into their daughter products to produce energy, there's not enough of it left to be a viable fuel. So that's what's shown in the center of this figure. We're now down from 33 kilograms of uranium-235 initially to about 8 kilograms. That means 25 kilograms of uranium-235 have gone through fission, and some of the uranium-238 has been modified as well through these nuclear reactions. And so at the end of that, now we're ready to resupply, but I've still got this chunk of radioactive stuff. I've got 943 kilograms of uranium-238, 8 kilograms of uranium-235, and so on. Other products, including plutonium, that are all toxic and mostly radioactive themselves. So I still have to get rid of that 1,000 kilograms of stuff somewhere. So the life cycle in a nuclear power plant, you mine it, you dig up this uranium ore, you enrich it to increase the concentration of uranium-235. You then assemble it into fuel rods, send it to your nuclear reactor. It reacts through chain reactions, producing electricity for a while. Then when it's essentially burned up. You take it out, you store it on site, and then hope that society finds a place where you can bury it long term in an underground repository. There are some processes where some of that fuel can be reprocessed. You get some of that remaining 8 kilograms, for example, of uranium-235 out of it. Plutonium can also be used for nuclear weapons as well as for other types of nuclear reactors. And that's called breeder reactors, or ones where you then use the plutonium and recycle them back in and do some additional energy extraction from that. So that's sort of like those cogeneration power plants where you take a little bit of the waste and recycle it to extract a little bit more energy out. But ultimately, it's got to end up in some permanent repository for that waste. And as we described the half-life of radioactive materials, it doesn't ever entirely go away. So we have to wait many, many, many half-lives for the radioactive material to get down to a safe abundance. And that's a long time. It depends on the material. They all have different half-lives, but they're typically hundreds to much longer, thousands, tens of thousands or longer years. And so that's kind of longer even than a civilization at some level. So a lot of work has been done to try to identify ways that you could store this stuff safely where it would survive the collapse of our current civilization and not leak into the environment, that it would be marked clearly enough that people thousands of years in the future would recognize it as a hazardous material. And at the moment, there isn't really a definitive solution for long-term storage of radioactive material. It does keep accumulating without a real coherent long-term plan. Yucca Mountain in Nevada was chosen as a repository in the United States, but for various reasons, it was terminated in 2009, so that at the moment we're still just dealing with temporary storage places. So some of the things you have to be paying attention to if you're thinking about long-term storage of radioactive waste would be, is there likely to be an earthquake there, for example, that might let water, subterranean water, into the storage or damage the containment vessels and allow some of that material to leak out. So nuclear fuel, it's a fuel like carbon. When you burn it up, you still have it. With carbon fuels like natural gas and coal, you burn it, you produce a big pile of ash, which is one environmental effect. You produce a lot of toxins that go directly into the atmosphere and into the water supply. With nuclear fuel, you burn it up, you still have 100% of the ash. It's right there. It's just in those fuel rods. You have that fuel well contained, but it's toxic. It's accumulating as you're using this power plant over time, and it remains toxic for a very long time, so it requires some sort of long-term storage in order to protect the environment from it.